Hey, welcome back to Who's Up. We get into sports, health and wellness, um, current events, and personal finance. Today, we're going to tackle a little topic about the different cultures in the workplace, being professional, getting a job with interviews, and just recruitment. We have the normal panel here with Danny, Ocean, Justin, and Dr. J, but we also have another one of our big bros, Jay Dilla here, who's you can go ahead and explain your title and what you're good at.
Yeah, so my name is Justin, aka Jay Dilla. I'm a recruiter for Huntington Ingalls Industries, pretty much a shipbuilding company, government contractor. Um, so yeah, I'm here today, pretty much to talk to you about recruiting, talent acquisition, interviewing, and different tips.
All right, sounds good. So what y'all want to start with? Y'all want to start about the cultural differences we experience in the workplace, or y'all want to get into some straight with some tips on interview skills and the importance of networking and stuff like that?
I personally think it'll go better to talk about the culture in the workplace because, again, the interview tips that Jay Dilla would give for maybe someone that looks like him may be different than someone who doesn't look like him. So I feel like they could kind of flow together. And Jay Dilla, correct me if I'm wrong.
Gotcha. I would say, as far as the culture, from what I've experienced, major differences in culture is more so not a race thing. It's more as far as an age thing. So you have those who's been in the government industry well before we were even born, and that's all they know. So now they're coming close to retirement, but nowadays a lot of people are trying to hold on to those jobs. So while we have that older crowd that's looking to hang on as long as possible, we have the newer generations trying to come up, trying to break that gate and try to get their foot in the door. So that's what I notice a lot is we still have a good of the older crowd, but we're still trying to bring in the younger generations, kind of mesh everything together.
Yeah, I know. Like just to piggyback off that, I know like where I work. Like I said, I also work for the government, but the age thing is really big difference. Like most of the people in my office got me about 20 years easily.
Right.
So I think that is a big difference. Like I know when I go to work, there's nobody that looks like me. Well, not looks like me, but it's my age. So it's like just a big disparity. So it's like you don't watch the same TV shows. It's just hard to relate sometimes on a personal level. The culture is really not the same when it comes to music and stuff like that. But but I know for me personally, I love working with older people because it's like working with your mom and dad all the time. They teach you stuff, they try to show you stuff, especially if you have good, coworkers.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So why do you think the older people are holding on longer than in the past?
Um, I'm not 100% sure. I know a lot of those that generation. Some of those came straight out of high school, so they either went straight to the military, like the Army, the Navy, or whatever, and they found a job with a government contractor. So that's all they know. So I'm not sure if they're comfortable where they're at, or they don't want to dive into anything new in the stage of their lives. But it seems for the most part, a lot of these people they're just comfortable. Another example is as far as sticking in the same role for, let's say, 15, 20, 30 years, although they reach the cap of their role, they're okay with that. They're not looking for the next thing. They're good with being comfortable. But with the younger crowd, we're always trying to break the door, and we want more and more and more as we grow. But we're not looking for a comfortability. But it seems like the older crowd is, in my opinion.
To piggyback off of the age gap, right? So I also think that there is a cultural difference as far as what they will accept, right? Because the older generation didn't want people in the workplace that had tattoos, that wore earrings, especially like tattoos and stuff that are visible, right? And so I know when I was in college before I went to apply for a job, I used to have braids, and so I cut my hair. I was like, hey, like this is more of the professional look. I was like, if I had a tattoo, I wanted it to not be able to be seen if I was wearing short sleeve shirts and stuff like that. So do you think, as far as the position you're in, do you see some of the barriers being taken back which wouldn't have been comfortable for coworkers of, TJ's realm, who are in their 50s and 60s, rather than the coworkers of today, where mine may be in their 30s, late 20s to early 30s and 40s. Like, do you see that difference?
I definitely do. I think that has definitely got more lax over the years as far as jewelry, tattoos and whatnot. This definitely got relaxed as far as where I work at. I see a lot of people with visible tattoos all the time. We have different managers. They have like different color hair, like purple hair, pink hair. So I guess right now they feel like, hey, we don't care about that anymore. As long as you get the job done and you represent the company in a good way, that's all we care about as far as my company. But yeah, that was definitely a big stigma back in the day as far as having visible tattoos. But me personally, I have a visible tattoo on my lower arm. So when I go out to different events, I actually like showing my tattoos off. So there's kind of show to the younger crowd, like, hey, I have tattoos and I work here too. So don't think that you won't be able to work here because you look a certain way. So don't think that was the case back in the days, but now it's definitely changed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I think it was on Facebook the other day, and they were saying how like good looking people normally make more money, or it's easy for them to get jobs. So like being in shape and not being a health risk for from stuff like that actually leads to better jobs with more money. I think they said like good looking people usually make like 5 to 10% more than others, just on average.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Shit, I need to go to the gym.
That's crazy.
That explains a lot. I need to hit up the gym. God damn, out of 10%.
No, I mean that's like the survey. I think it was out of Princeton or something like that.
Again, I don't have much background in it, but it kind of makes sense, right? Because if you want the face of your company out there, right? Like I don't want to say but people are much more willing to listen to somebody that's aesthetically appealing, right? Like, or somebody that, that you say, okay, well, he's in a role that I want, or he or she's in a role that I want. He or she has a build that I want as far as, body and, you know what I mean? And he or she is representing financially of what I look, you know what I mean? So we all kind of have like something that maybe we aspire to look like. It's much easier to aspire to something that actually looks good.
Hey, Dr. J, what do you feel about like that, being overweight or like actually being in shape? How you feel like, is that really like a health risk for job's sake, or do you?
Yeah, it is. I was actually taking a course on ergonomics in the workforce and that kind of thing. And they were saying that the older workforce, that's one issue they run into. They out of work because they sick, hurt. You got to be able to do the job, So just like if it was football or basketball, you get toward the back end of the career, are you going to actually be there? Availability being your greatest ability. So it kind of turned into that. And some of the data they were talking about in their class, they were saying that the workforce is actually aging. So we need the younger folks to come in now. So some of the dynamics I'm seeing in healthcare, we're seeing the older crowd retiring early because they getting pay cuts. Actually, they used to see bigger money, and now they trying to trim it and make it more affordable. So they taking an exit. But the ones that remain, some of them are hesitant to adapt in ways that will make their job easier, like technology. Like it's a lot of therapists against doing stuff online, or a lot of professionals against doing stuff online. So it's just little subtle things like that. Even in education is of healthcare, we're seeing some of the same issues. We've got a lot of the older crowd retiring out. The new crowd, they really don't even meet the requirements. Like you may have to get an extra degree in school to be able to teach and that kind of thing. So it's some dynamics going on. So taking care of your body, being in shape, gotta have that. Taking care of your mind, so you can be ready to take the next step up, like you were talking about. You gotta have that too. Got to be able to do the stuff.
I think it's important to know that all that is discrimination and it's illegal. To deny someone a job because they're fat, dog, that is mad.
No, that's not what I mean.
I'm not saying that's what you meant, physics, but right? I know we're talking about looking good and what's aesthetically pleasing. Like that's
yeah.
Discrimination 101.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they could frame it as something else, like they didn't meet these certain qualifications, or was somebody more qualified.
I mean, that's still discrimination, no matter how you frame it. Like someone denied you a job because you were black, and they were just like, well, we didn't like the way he spoke to us, or whatever. Like, it's still discrimination.
Yeah.
But I
Kinda hard to
mean,
prove
if
it,
the
though.
job is killing for a white person, is that discrimination? Like, you gonna play the George Washington role in this movie? Kind of need you to be white. Now, I'm just saying. Does that count?
He was black in Hamilton, and I thoroughly enjoyed Hamilton.
That movie. I'm not gonna go in that soapbox. I mean,
I do have a question for Jay Dilla though. You mentioned that like government jobs, like it's hard to grow, and you're saying like young people, like that's what we look for in jobs, is like a sort of a career path and a growth path. And I work in the creative industry, and I know an issue we run into is people come, they work for 4 years, they feel like they've reached the window, and then they jump to another agency. So when you're recruiting younger talent and they ask you about like, what's my growth plan, or how can I take the next step in my career here? Like, do you find that challenging since it is kind of hard to move about within the government, or do you feel like it's rather easy?
I wouldn't say it's difficult to really move around once you get your foot in the door, but you just have to do it for yourself. Pretty much you had to help me help you, so we create that path together.
Okay.
For example, if I hire somebody to come in, let's say as an electrician, all right, that's cool. That's good. Maybe that's your passion, is to be an electrician. But if you want more, like, do you see yourself being like a trainer or an instructor? So what do you see yourself going with this? Like, what's the next level for you? So once you allow us to help you to get to that path, and design it for you. So the nice thing about my job, it's not always like a straight line path saying like, you have to do this, then this, then this. You could go off tangent. You could go anywhere that you please, if you meet the requirements, if you have the training and the certifications and whatnot. You just have to let your immediate manager know, like, hey, this is my goals. Like, how can we get there? And they'll help you. They'll draw up like an action plan for you. Like, all right, this is the best way to get to where you want to go. This is how we want to get you to grow. Because managers, they want you to grow because that looks good on them. Because they rather have people leave them and grow within the role as opposed to leave them and leave the company. Because that doesn't look good on a management perspective. So management is definitely there for you. As far as the good managers, they're there for you to help you grow within the company.
Yeah, I know. Like with the actual government too, because like I said, from my experiences, is once you're in the government, for us, it's easier to move around. Once you're in, it's just hard getting in. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
But your retirement, all that stuff, your time of service rolls over from agency to agency. But as long as you're within that umbrella of the federal government, all your stuff stays the same. So I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people, like in my field, move around every 2 to 3 years, just because, we want, a raise, or we want this, or we want that, we're tired of doing this. And then like you have people who stay there for 15, 20 years as well, because like I said, they're comfortable. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Now, this one's different topic.
DJ, something that's going on that just came about. I'm interested to see how it plays out. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this, CJ, the whole federal mandate for the vaccination. So we have, well, like you said, they've been in there for like 20, 30 years. And for those who are not wanting to get vaccinated, to me, I feel bad for them because they put all this time in, and now they may be out of a job. So that's an unfortunate situation that we're kind of in as a country.
Yeah, just a little more background on that. I hang with a couple people in HR who for like, I know the actual federal side, not the contractor side, but they're taking exemption notices for like religion or health reasons and stuff like that. But they don't have the regulation in place to even process the exemption notice.
Right.
So they're just taking them, but just like inside information, they probably won't get even looked at or for another 2 years, because they said they have to write the policy first. So it may be some time. So my advice, if you don't want to get it, just to work your way through it until it's time, and then just try to prepare to leave if you have to. But I doubt it's going to happen with the administration changing in a couple of years.
Yeah, because right now the original date was for December 8th. They just pushed it back to January 4th. Yeah. But the thing is, you don't want to, if you're on the fence about getting it, you don't want to wait too long, because you have to have the second one by that end date. So I work with a lot of good people. I always just hate for one day I come to work and find out that so-and-so is no longer with the company.
So you have to, like, the mandate doesn't say anything about testing. Like, I know I work in the private industry. It's either you either get vaccinated or you have to show a test, negative test. So no negative test. It's either vaccine or get out.
Yes, it's a vaccine or get out right now. We were thinking that route as far as like weekly testing. We was thinking possibly like why not do that? But as of right now, the way that's worded, it's you have to be fully vaccinated.
Yeah, and I know ours is you be fully vaccinated, or they say you may experience some not loss of job. They didn't actually put that in writing, but some disciplinary action, as in you can't come to like the work site. So if you can't come to work, that means you can't work. That means we don't need you, type thing. Or you permanently have to work from home.
And it's
like that. So that's a little thing that they're trying to decide.
It's funny how they word it. In my job, they word it as if, if you can't show proof of vaccination, that we take this as your form of resignation, which means you're fired.
Wow, folks.
Wow.
Oh, I got another kind of step to the left topic, right? So I'm wondering, in a field like I've worked, a lot of the jobs that I've worked at, I've been like, I don't want to say the token, but it's been like maybe me being a Black person and maybe one other person, right? And so I have always in my mind, when I've interviewed for jobs, I'm like, hey, I gotta be better than everybody that doesn't look like me, right? And so I don't know if that is a negative way of thinking, or if any of y'all have ever, like, you know, with interviewing for jobs and stuff like that, saying like, hey, it's probably not going to be a lot of people that look like me in there, so I got to make sure that I'm better than the people that don't look like me, to keep it 100. I know I've always felt like that, and I don't even wear my earrings to work. Like every time I wear them in the car, as soon as I get out the car, I'll pop them things out, go on to work, get back in the car, and, you know, pop them back in, because I remember just one time that I went back to an old job and I had my earrings, and I'm like, well, yeah, I don't work there no more. Like, I'm Gucci. And the guy goes, bling, bling, bling. And in my head, I was like, what are you talking about? I ain't even got no watches or nothing. I ain't blinging a day. I'm just, and then I realized he was talking about my earrings, even though I had done great work for him. We had a great working relationship and everything like that. It just pointed back to the stereotype is that's what they see. You know what I mean? And it didn't feel good. And so it just kind of reinforced that, like, hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? So have you, Jay Dilla, have you experienced that? And then I guess everybody else can.
I would say, initially when I was working at my current job right now, I was the same way. I to work with a shirt and tie on, and I try my best not to wear my earrings. But then as I started working there, I started seeing people around me, even like the older white guys that was working there. They was wearing earrings. They had long hair with ponytails. They was dressing casual. I feel as though I guess I was overdressed. So I was thinking about it as far as let me portray myself in the right way in which I want to be respected. So I guess initially when I first started working there, I kind of overthought things. So I kind of like dumbed it down a little bit. So I started like not wearing a tie so much and wearing my regular earrings. So yeah, initially I was worried about that, just like you off the bat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Danny Ocean. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, I feel it has to do with the culture of the workplace, because some workplaces are more socially acceptable to new things or not as much cultural differences, because like between the Black and the white community, because like for us, having longer hair and thicker beards is a normal, but in some other communities or some other cultures, it's looked at as different, thuggish, or something like that. Like me personally, like I never really grew my hair out until we started working from home. I'm not going to the office as much.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. But like I said, I think it has to do with the culture and the people you work around. Like you say, Justin, like you walked in and they said that, you know, bling bling. It's like, you know, there it may not be culturally accepted, but where Jay Dilla works, it may be. So I think it's, the workplace is different, even though it may be right or wrong per se. I think it has to do more with the individuals in the workplace and how you want to fit in.
Yeah.
And Neil, what about you?
I kind of forgot the question, but I'm going to do my best to answer. Justin, I think that the heart of the question was like, I'm assuming it's Black people like try to I want to say overcompensate to be better than our counterparts, right? I feel like that's something I know my mother instilled in me. I feel like all of our parents instilled that in us. And somewhere you got to be twice as good to get half as far, right? That saying has a lot of weight to it. So I know, again, working in a creative industry where I don't know if this is the right term, but I get to be more black than I would more so than in a traditional office. Like I can go around quoting Juicy J, and I have, just to test the limits to see what would happen. And it's been cool, but it's still in the back of my mind. Like maybe one day when it's time for a promotion or it's time for that raise, that may be held against me. So yeah, it's always something that's on my mind while in the office, no matter what the culture is. Like in my mind, I'm going to be judged by a different set of parameters than my peers, specifically my white counterparts. And I don't care what the culture is. I feel like that's going to be somewhere hidden, and at some point in time will rear its head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here I am. I always try to be the exact opposite. I'm not going to do any better than I always going to do. I'm going to give my best effort regardless. And that's all you're going to get. Nothing more, nothing less. See what I'm saying? I'm 100 proof, straightforward. One track mind. I'm going to show up, do my work. That's it. I ain't going to go above to impress somebody else, but I'm not going to shortchange the people that's supposed to be getting service either. So I'm going to give you my best effort. That's it. As far as all this buddy stuff, I'm not here for y'all no way. I'm here for the 15th and the 20th. I'm sorry, the 5th and the 20th now. So as far as that part goes, it's always other than a different type of culture in healthcare too. Like you can take us as we are, or you can have nobody at work. So we more like the NBA. You want to start or you not. You know what I mean? So that's a blessing though, not to be arrogant about it. But I mean, I'm not gonna put on no show for nobody else, man. I don't care if I'm the person that you should be able to wear your dreadlocks at work because that's your hair. Who are you to tell me what's the standard? You know what I mean? Now, unless it's something like movies and film and modeling where, all right, this is what I need to play this part, look the part, then cause the pause. But if we're talking about data entry, just to make an example, why do I care if you got dreadlocks or if you don't? You can be bald headed for all I care, do your work. See what I'm saying?
So you have to go that far, but
I mean, well, yeah, what it is. I mean, you want to fade? You want low cut season? What you need?
Some of us can
You
get
want that Kanye
design?
I got one more other one, and I'm sure Jay Dillo will have a lot to say on this one. I know my mom specifically told me, she said, I named you Justin. She said that so when you went into the workplace or whatever like that, people wouldn't be able to discriminate on you based upon your name. And I'm pretty sure there have been many surveys in like maybe Princeton or Harvard where the two people had identical GPAs, resume, all the extracurricular activities. And because their name was Jaquaviante Johnson versus Matthew Garrett got accepted, right? And you know what I'm saying? That got accepted. And so like, how do you feel about that, J. Dill?
So me personally, so when I'm reviewing resumes for different positions that we have open, I honestly don't even look at the name first. So I'm going straight to the details of your resume as far as your education, your skill set, and I go for that in the year's experience. So I'll go for that first. So as long as you check off every single box, I don't care what your name is. As long as you can do the job, that's what I care about. As long as we can put you in a place to be successful, that's the most important thing. So I said, honestly, I don't even look at the name initially. If everything looks good on the resume, I'll send over to the hiring manager, like, hey, he has this, he has that, he has that. Let's get him set up for an interview. So as far as names, I mean, there are some people, I'm pretty sure, that discriminate based on your name or the spelling of your name or what have you. But from my experience of my team that I work with, we don't care what your name is.
Yeah. Again, that's definitely, I feel like it's more common, but I just like, again, I'm not saying that you're denying it, but you can't tell me that there are other companies that aren't specifically like that ain't the first thing that's at the top of the list. Highlight it. Oh, hell no. Food, you know what I mean? Before they even look, you know what I mean? Look down at at the resume. So
I believe that is happening. I really do. But the thing about that with other companies, if they are doing it, then they can get in trouble by the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, I believe, if I got that right. Mm-hmm. So let's say, for example, what was that name that you gave, Justin?
Jaquaviante Johnson.
Okay, so let's say if he is getting denied by so many different, let's say for this one company, let's say if he's getting denied for every role that he easily meets the requirements for, knock it out of the park. He's probably one of the best candidates, but he's not getting an interview or he's getting overlooked. If he feels though he has a claim, he could report it to the EEOC, and at that point they will investigate that company and they will pretty much compare his resume to other people's resumes that's been hired in that position. Mm-hmm. So you can complain to the EEOC if you feel so you're being discriminated in that aspect.
Yeah. Well, do you feel like that rarely happens? Do you feel like that rarely happens though? Because if y'all deny me twice, my God, I'm moving on to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm probably not taking that additional step to be like, is it because of my name? You know what I'm saying? It may just be like, I'm like, damn, these Matthew Garretts keep out qualifying me. Something going on. Like I gotta figure that out. You know what I mean? Like
that's the thing. Like me personally, I really wouldn't know if it ever gets to that step, because they pretty much audit the company, not me or our team. They would audit the whole company and check their records as far as their hiring practices and whatnot. So majority of that information wouldn't even come down to me. That would be more of like an upper management thing. They will handle that. But honestly, if you even have to take it to that point in which you feel as though that you're being discriminated based off your name, do you truly really want to even still work for that company?
No, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't have, after I applied twice and y'all said no, I'm like, all right, next. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't.
But on the flip side, although you don't want to work for that company, you might be helping somebody else who needs that opportunity. So you could be pretty much a savior for somebody else coming in behind you saying, hey, I really need this opportunity. This be the best bet for me, because you took the initiative to call them out on their BS. You're now open to other people who has similar names like I do.
True.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good. So let's get into some more like resume tips or interview skills, like, or in the importance of networking. What do you, how important is a strong resume?
A resume is pretty much you telling your story on paper. I tell people all the time, especially when I go to like college events, I tell people all the time, like, hey, here's the time to brag about yourself. Like, don't shortchange yourself. Like every project, every relevant work experience that you had, now's the time to let the world know about it. Like, don't shortchange yourself. Let everybody know like what you're capable of, and let them know that why you're the best. So put everything that you think is relevant and important down on paper, and that's your resume. Make sure it's neat. Make sure it's in order. Make sure it's legible. And yeah.
Do you feel as because I know where, like, I work federal, in the outside world, the whole 2-page resume versus the federal resume can be 10, 12 pages, because the federal resume is more so that's what they're looking at before they do any interview. So you need to explain everything you do, everything you've accomplished, every degree, class you've taken, award you've gotten. But the outside, what I've heard is, try to keep it within 2 pages. Some that just detail what you've done, where you've come from, a little synopsis.
It's really no rule to that, in my opinion. Like I said, if you have a whole story to tell, then tell it. If it's gonna take 2 pages, 3 pages, tell your story. But here's the important tip that I would say: tailor your resume to the job that you're applying for. You're not going to give your normal resume as if you're applying to like Best Buy and try to get to the government with that same type of resume. It's not going to work. Or vice versa. You're not going to give a very detailed resume and you want a part-time job at Chick-fil-A. They're going to like, they're going to look at you like, what is this? So always have, if you have to, have multiple copies of your resume. Just be sure to tailor it to the job that you're applying for. That's one of the biggest tips I will offer.
And question to kind of go at that. So let's say, do you like some companies have like a software that pulls like keywords out and stuff like that? And so is that are they pulling it out of the cover letter? Are they pulling it out of like when you're like, as TJ was saying about the detailed description, like where do you recommend a person who's applying for a particular job? Should they make sure that their cover letter, number one, addresses the role that they're applying to, and then number two, inside their resume, that they have particularly, like if you said, like for me, I work in the finance industry, you know, reviewed expense reports, use concur systems, should those keywords be found in the body of the resume as well?
Absolutely. I would say cover letter and resume, more so the resume.
Okay.
Like with my job, I'm actually the one that's looking at the resume. The rest of the talent acquisition team, it's no system. It's humans looking at your resumes. So let's say, for example, if you're applying to a certain job, and it says, so for this role, you must have A, B, C, D. Make sure A, B, C, D is listed in your resume somewhere. So that way I can check it off. All right, cool. He has that. He has that. He has that. Any relevant keywords or certifications that could go along with A, B, C, D, throw it in there too. That's going to even make your resume stand out even more. So a lot of people, like I said, that kind of goes back to tailoring your resume to the job that you're applying for. A lot of people, they might have, let's say, for example, like AutoCAD experience. Like if you're trying to be an engineer, but they'll say like, yeah, I worked as an engineer, but they won't have AutoCAD listed anywhere on your resume. Why won't you list all your skills that you have, all your certifications? Like, don't sell yourself short. So always list all the skills that you have that's relevant, and be sure to tell your resume with all the keywords that the position is asking for. So that way, in a sense, you can't be denied, or you should be denied.
Okay.
All right. What about interviews? I know one of my bros gave me some great advice when I was coming through. If you got the interview, you got the job. Like going in with some confidence. Thank you, Danny Ocean, for that one, for that gym. But what are some interview skills that you say you should have? Like, should people take like Toastmasters to become better speakers? Should they review different regulations and documentations before they go to the interview so they actually can speak on different things that they've done? Or
during the interview process, arrive early as possible. Make sure you dress for the role that you want, not for the role that you've had previously, if it's like a lesser role. As far as my mindset, when I come into an interview, not to sound cocky, but I come into the interview like, hey, you guys need me more than I need you. So let's have a conversation. So a lot of people, they might be nervous in the interview, but it's honestly strictly just a conversation. They just want to know about you. So you shouldn't be nervous about bragging about yourself, because that's all it is. Like, you're talking about yourself, talking about your past experiences. So here's your time to shine. So just back and forth conversation. So don't feel as though it has to be a one-way conversation where they're constantly asking you questions. You could bounce questions back at them. If you're curious about something, or you want to follow up on a certain process that they might be utilizing in position, it's okay to ask follow-up questions. It's a conversation. That's all the interview is. It's strictly a conversation. I would say a best tip to help you during these interviews is using the STAR method. So the STAR method is pretty much using pretty much answering a question, giving a situation, a task, an action, and the results to that situation. So that kind of paints a picture better for the interviewers. Like, okay, so he painted the full thing for me. I have no follow-up questions on that particular question. And also just practice. Like, just before you go on the interview, just get in front of a mirror, just practice. I've never taken a Toastmaster class, but before my interviews, I just practice, and I have to hear myself say certain words or try to give like answers to the question I think they're going to ask. So that way I'm not stumbling across my words or whatnot. So like I said, main thing is going there with confidence. Think of it as just a conversation and just have fun with it. It's okay. It's okay to smile and laugh during an interview. Show some of your personality.
I got a tip, because I've been on a couple of job interviews. Number one is I specifically, like, I try to read backwards and forwards about the company, right? Like, I try to go in there and ask them a question that they say I got to get back to you, right? Because my thing is, like, when you stump them, then number one, I feel like that person takes the pressure off me. Like, you get them a little bit, like stuttering or kind of like on their heels, and I'm like, okay. And then something that I always do is, especially after the interview, is I make sure to follow up with a follow-up email or like a follow-up like card to the office to kind of make sure, like, say, hey, you know, I appreciate y'all taking the time to speak with me today. This, and that. Like, I really look forward to the opportunity to be able to be a, you know, a huge part of your team. This, and that, and then to make sure they don't forget me.
Yeah.
So, and again, I know it's a little different these days. Because a lot of times you have recruiters who kind of do that, you know, do a bit of that work for you. But I always make sure to give them the email. Like, say, I don't need y'all to put words in my mouth for me. Send them this for me, right? So I know that's something that, you know, that I've always done, and I just kind of look at it like interview. I feel like it's like talking to girls. Like, go in there confident, assume you're gonna get the number. You know what I mean, and leave later than they wanted you to.
Yeah. Like,
That's all.
All right.
I have one. I got one more.
All right.
So, how, Jada, like, how powerful of a tool is LinkedIn now for you compared to when we graduated? You know, 8 to 10 years ago, when LinkedIn wasn't, you know, as popular as it is now. I feel like right now LinkedIn is kind of like the way to go.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, every single day, that's part of my resources I use to find certain talent. When I go to different colleges or even high schools, I tell students, like, hey, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, go get that started. It's a good way to network as far as to students within your college or to other schools or different industries, different businesses. So just gotta get your name out there. Because I share like different positions that we have, and somebody might reach out to them, like, say, like, hey, I saw your position. My friend from years ago, he sent me the message. So you just building a whole network. So you might not see a position initially, but somebody in your network might forward it to you. So it's definitely it's good to get a LinkedIn profile started earlier than later. That way you can network even better.
And then one more follow up to that. Like, I work in the creative industry, so it's very common for young creatives to like reach out to someone else or someone who works in the agency that they work for. It's like, hey, can we take a 30-minute Zoom call to learn more? Like, is that something that you would advise people to do? Like, if there's someone that works for a company that you're interested in, like, just shooting them a note on LinkedIn and saying, hey, you know, I love CarMax. Can we spend 30 minutes to talk about it in your role at, you know, at that job?
Yeah, that's fine. Sometimes you gotta kind of be careful with it, because you just gotta kind of gauge who's messaging you. Because I know sometimes it's a little bit spam, not really too much. But you just gotta be like, all right, is this person legit? But there's nothing wrong with just messaging somebody like, hey, like, I see your experiences. I'm kind of intrigued to learn more about what you do. So I mean, no, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
All right. Like, you know what they always say, it's not always what you know, but it's who you know. So
Right.
grow that network. That is one thing that a lot of millionaires and billionaires always said, their network got them their net worth. Never has been their actual what they did. So, hey, J Dill, you got anything else for us?
No, like I said, I just want to leave on a note, like I said, as far as for those who's applying to different positions, make sure you tailor your resume to the position that you're applying for, and be sure to practice before those interviews, and go in there with confidence. Pretty much they called you in for an interview for a reason, so you're pretty much there. So just wow them during the interview, and just prepare for the next step.
All right, that sounds good. Great combo today, guys. Go tap in with us on IG at who's up _ podcast. If you want to shoot us any questions, interact with us, shoot us an email at 1-800-who's up@gmail.com. Thank y'all. We out.